Hey guys, Mike. Welcome back to the shop. Today's project, I just purchased a tailstock, as I mentioned in the last video, for the indexing head on the milling machine. The only problem is the center for it is a little bit too small for use on the shotgun brakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a add-on piece to go on the tip of it. So I have to bore out a piece of steel, cut a taper on the front edge, and then I'll probably just bore the center out all the way through, just drill it all the way through so that the point of the center that's on the tailstock doesn't get messed up at all. And I think I'm going to use a piece of, I thought I had it sitting here but I don't, a piece of 1¼ or 1 3/8 cold roll that I had sitting around, because it doesn't need to be too much bigger. And all the brakes, the biggest brake I make for the shotgun starts off at 1¼ inch. So the inside hole that it's going to be pushing on is going to be quite a bit smaller, usually around 7/8 or under. So I'm going to move the camera over to the lathe, find the piece of steel we're going to use, and get to work. Alright, we have a piece of 1 3/8 cold roll. I have another piece that I kind of want to make it out of 1144 stress proof, just because it'll last longer, it won't get torn up. But I kind of want to make one just to test, and I can do it easily enough on this, and then anything I don't like I can change without too much trouble. So this is the saw cut side from one of the drops, so I'm just going to face this off, and then I'll put a slight taper, and then I'm going to center drill and drill it out all the way through with a 1/4 inch bit, and then I'll bring the piece that it's going to slide over the top of, and we'll get a more precise measurement, and then bore it to that diameter so it's a tight fit. So it'll basically just slide over and it'll go in between the two parts. And after watching my last video, I realized that without the stupid light from the smithy on, it actually looks pretty good on camera. To me, it doesn't look very well, but if I turn this light on here, it kind of blinds it, makes the part really bright, but everything else kind of fades out, and this way I think it's a little bit more balanced. So we're going to do that. We're going to start with the 10,000ths feed. The front end of this was kind of messed up. It was cut a long time ago before I got my bandsaw adjusted halfway decent. So we need to take off quite a bit. A lot better. Not leaving a little polished spot in the middle there. It looks like it's perfectly on center, so I'm going to lock this tool post. Not because I had adjusted it. I had to switch out tools in the tool holder, so that's done. So I can get this tool in here. Alright, now we'll get the drill bits set up and bring the part over that's going to go inside of here. I got to take the tailstock apart real quick and get set up. Alright, I'm going to try to do this with the camera up close so you guys get a better view of the actual metalwork. So I've got a number 5 center drill, I've got a 1/4 inch, a 29/64, and then a 9/16. I'm going to step it out to. I'm only cutting in as far as I need to, So I want a 1-inch engagement of the actual body of the center here, and from the shoulder to the tip it is about 3/4 of an inch or so. So I'm going to check here. So if I do about an inch, about 1.25 inches in, there should be plenty of engagement on the outside of it. So let me get my cutting fluid and we'll get going. Our part is cool to the touch. So we gave it plenty of time to cool down in between cuts. So I had a scale sitting here. So I am just over 1.75 inches there. I don't know how well, if at all, you guys are going to be able to see that, but that's where it stops at. It's just over 1.75 of an inch by about 1/8 of an inch. Now we'll be able to come in here with the boring bar and clean this out to size. And the size that we have to bore it to, it is 0.746 as the diameter on our part here. So we need this to go in. We've got about 1/8 of an inch of material to remove off both sides. I'm going to shut the camera off and clean up the table here, and then I'll bring you back when we're ready to cut. Alright, I got the boring bar set up, and all I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go in and touch that back edge without the machine running, just so I can set up a stop point. So I'm just really slowly running it in It's right on the edge of touching, right there. So as soon as it gets that back edge, I'll be able to feel it. And I'm just right there's my stop point, so I can set a 0 on my DRO. And now I know when I'm getting close to 0 that I'm about to cut. I'm going to try cutting this at about 500 RPM and see how that cuts. This is just 1018, so we'll see how it goes. Try 15 thousandths for the first cut. I'm going to get my vacuum and clean that up real quick, just so I can get a measurement on it. Right now I'm just going to use my calipers. Okay, so we're getting 644. Of course, I moved everything off my bench. I can grab it easily, so let me move everything back over here. Alright, so we're at 644 there. And we'll stop when we get to about 720 or so on the DRO, and we'll get the telescope gauges out in the mic and start checking it. take a real light deburring here. That I thought I had is use this paper towel. Not gonna hurt anything. There we go. That's what we wanted. Just for S and G's here, let's take an actual measurement and see what we ended up at. Alright, we ended up at 749 and a half according to the mic. And that is a nice, fairly nice surface inside there. So I'm happy with this end. So now, we need to cut this to a 60-degree semi-point. I'm not worried about going all the way, you know, to the hole that's in here. All I'm worried about doing is getting it so that it'll fit into the throat of the muzzle brakes. So I need it big enough that it'll fit this surface here, because that's what it's going to be pushing into. Alright, I have my compound rest adjusted to 60 degrees according to the veneer on the side of it, and I've got it set to where it's almost going to cut. I don't like turning my compound and cutting out. I prefer to always cut in towards the machine, so I always spin in reverse to cut my tapers. So we're ready to go. I'm going to come in here and just touch off. We don't need our power feet on. I just want to check the diameter on the tip here. It's about 5/8 right now, which is really close to where I want it to stop at. I'm not liking the finish that I'm getting with this tool here, so I think I'm going to switch out tools and go to a high-speed bit. We'll see if I can clean up the finish a little bit. So I'll bring you back once I have that done. Alright, I've switched out to a high-speed bit, and it's got a small little radius on it. I'm hoping that'll cut a little bit smoother. beautiful. You can see the tool marks, but you can't really feel them with your fingers. So let's check. A brake on it. Whoa. Got my camera mount here. Oh, that's plenty. Alright, so I'm gonna probably notch just a little bit off the face here. Take a small facing cut just to take off, because right now it's got kind of a sharp edge. Just knock that off, and then I'm gonna polish it up with some Scotch-Brite, and we'll be ready to test it on our actual part and see if it fits. And there's our finished part, which will slide on here, and that way that point doesn't get flattened out on anything. And we've got a bigger center for this. So I'm going to move the camera around over to the tailstock, and we'll check it and make sure everything fits up on the tailstock itself right. Alright, so somehow our part ended up going way too far in before it stopped. So I need to take almost a ½ an inch off of here. So what I'm going to do, since it's more than I really feel like, I'm setting the edge of my tool off this face here. Right there just barely touches. Zero my table, and then I'm going to go in. Actually, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to zero the other side. I don't know what I'm thinking sometimes. Alright. That's touching there. Now I can zero it. I want to come in and take a ½ an inch total off here. Lock my table. I'm going to turn this down to about 300 or so, actually about 250. 250, and then for my feed rate 6.2, which is 0.0057 per revolution. That seems to cut the best for parting off. Get some liquid on there. Would help if I engaged the drive. Now we can start cutting. actually left a really nice finish on there. But I'm going to use the same high-speed bit that I used for the radius to face it off real quick. Alright, now this tool has an angle on one side, so I'm going to use that to chamfer this edge just a hair. Spin it in reverse, raise the tool up just a little bit, cut the chamfer on the inside, and then we'll be done hopefully. I forgot how much I loved that high-speed tool. And this high-speed tool, the original grind on it was one that I'm assuming my grandfather did. And so all I do is touch it up occasionally. And it leaves a very, very nice finish. So now we're going to bring it over and check it. Now here's my new tailstock, and this is the Vertex, which is the same company who makes the indexing head that I have. And before, the problem was I only had about 1/4 of an inch of adjustment on this before I ran out of travel. So that's our start. And this on the way out here. So that's the end of the travel. So we've got almost an inch of travel on it now. And now that I know kind of how small and everything I need to make it, this will work for a couple jobs. The only problem is the material that this is going to be going inside of is W1 tool steel, or 8620, or 4140. Those are the 3 different materials that I make the brakes out of. A lot harder than 1018. I might just leave it and then just recut it when I need to for a while, because I don't want to mess up the surfaces on the brakes, but I'm not sure. But there's no play in the part at all. It's on there. I am very happy with that. Those high-speed bits left absolutely beautiful finishes. So we're good. You can see it's at a little bit of an angle here, so I haven't adjusted or anything. So the next video is going to be setting up the tailstock on the clausing lathe with the indexing head, and how I do it to get this centered and get the whole thing lined up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it wasn't too boring.